are beginning a new show called Answer Stock with the newest millionaire trader in the world, Matt Owens, aka TriForce Trader, and me, the oldest man-child millionaire in the world, Sykes. We're just going to talk about what we're seeing in the market. Eventually, ideally, you guys can really tune in live. I don't know. We don't really have it all planned yet. We're kind of just going by what we can do and answer your questions. That is one thing that we can definitely do. But first, Matt, tell us how it feels to be the youngest millionaire in the world of stock traders.
It feels pretty good. I don't know. It's not really surreal yet, but it's just because I do the same thing every day, and crossing over that threshold is not really that big of an achievement when you do something day in and day out.
So this is the exact same response Tim Grittani gave me when he crossed $1 million, and it pisses me off because it's so boring and so real. And, that's the real world. That's what it's good to be real. So thank you for sharing. But secondly, I would smack you because you are living the dream that so many millions of traders and investors out there would love to live. And you just make it sound so boring. And it's just like, why is everyone working and studying so hard to just be boring? Tell us about the thing that you are spending some money on. I know it seems like a small deal for you, but this is the American dream.
Oh, okay. So, and recently I'm building a house from scratch, bought the land, picked out everything I wanted. And hopefully it will be done here in the next week or two. We won't know. But yeah, that's what I'm kind of spending money on, which is cool for me because it's my own place, my own property. I could do whatever I want.
What are you going to do that's so different? Are you going to set off fireworks and be like JPP? What are you going to do here?
No, so part of my house will have like a place where I can work, and I'm actually converting my house to where it will be mostly solar powered. So that's kind of the cool thing for me. And I'm building a reverse osmosis machine in my backyard.
What does that do?
I get to just build things that I want to, I'm a mad scientist.
What's a reverse osmosis? Is that invented by Ozzy Osbourne?
No, it cleans water. The water here in this area is pretty bad, so to drink from.
Why don't you just buy everybody clean water with all your money?
It would be better to have some kind of renewable source.
Correct! And that analogy works because a lot of people want hot picks, but it's better to teach them, and it's better to create from scratch rather than just giving hot picks or giving clean water. Do you agree?
I agree.
So,
people learn nothing when you hand it to them.
Exactly. So that brings us to the first question of Answer Stock 2015 with the man-child and the millionaire. How do you find your best plays every day, Matthew?
I don't find plays every day. I kind of wait for things to come to me. But in recent past, the futures market has been absolutely on fire. I mean, since the conference that we were at, when I stood up on stage and I was like, this is like the bear killing season of the year. The market has moved over 160 points in a month. That's kind of incredible. So I kind of wait for basically, I've been trading most of the bull side, which is rare for me. I usually short. So for me, it's just been kind of just waiting for pullbacks to happen and buying them. I don't really have any big stock picks. Last thing I played was probably WTW, which was the only kind of stock. And I bought some Apple, honestly. I know you're going to hate on that, but it's like, I had to buy it. There was no reason not to be long. So
listen, you just crossed $1 million. There's nothing that you can do other than losing like half of it that would make me hate on anything. Right now, the question is, again, how do you find your hot picks? For me, I like looking for pump and dumps. I like waiting for them. I like waiting for earnings winners, so I don't guess earnings ahead of time. I see a lot of students looking at, 500 companies reporting earnings, and they're like, ooh, I'm going to be so prepared. I'm going to listen to these conference calls. And I'm like, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of time. Most earnings reports are going to be crap. Most of the reactions are going to be minimal, like where the stock is unchanged the next day. So I prefer just waiting for the market to show me plays And that means, looking for the biggest percent winners every single day, figuring out, is this big percent winner, going to have legs like WTW did for 3 days, where I actually bought WTW at 12-ish. What did you buy WTW at?
I bought it actually around like 13.
Did you hold longer than I also sold it.
I'm a wuss when it comes to that stuff. So.
I'm a wuss. It went to 20. It went to 20, and I was buying it and selling it in the 12s.
Because for me, I've in the past have been so burned by that stuff. It gives me nausea.
Yeah, trust me, I understand. It was scary. It was trading very scary in the 12s and the 13s. It really actually traded much easier in the 15s and 16s, where it was just cutting through sellers like warm butter. But when we were in it, it was actually tougher, even though we had better entries than when it was easier. It happens. The good news is we're both millionaires. So this is a very important point where a lot of people think, oh, you have to hold. You're such a wuss. You screwed it all up. And somehow we've made 7 figures. So don't be afraid to be a wuss. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I would much rather my students be wusses than overly aggressive, using leverage and sometimes hitting it big, but then coming up empty like the New York Mets.
Yeah, but you're talking about, a stock that it pretty much, it tripled itself in a couple of days. Yeah. So it's like, in that kind of expansion, that scares me to death, because the capitulation could be just as quick, and you never know, really.
Yeah, but it's a billionaire play, which is my hottest strategy this year, where you basically just buy a stock when a billionaire gets announced and hold it from anywhere from a few hours to 1 or 2 days when the press or analysts pick up on this billionaire blessing, basically. WTW is now basing in the 15s and 16s. So it's held its gains well. Oprah, for those of you who don't know, Oprah bought nearly 15% stake in Weight Watchers, which was basically a failing company, down to the 5s and the 6s before Oprah invested. Now it's hanging out, nearly triple what it was before Oprah. And the thought process is that all of Oprah's viewers are now going to be, using Weight Watchers. I guess she lost 10 or 15 pounds, I think, since she started using it. And that spiked the stock. When the New York Post reported on that, it spiked the stock like $1 a share. But the average Weight Watcher user only loses 3 pounds over a year.
Yeah, well, the thing is too, from a fundamental standpoint, which I know you guys don't really care about, but it's a $13 stock. That's what it was worth, even though it's been bleeding cash forever now. So that 13 range for sellers to get under is what I think will put the stock back to 6 if they can get it there.
Maybe. We'll see. I think Oprah will have a big impact on their business. The question is, can it really save the business, or is it just going to be a minor impact, which is probably more likely.
Yeah.
I don't think she's necessarily going to triple sales.
Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed about the business model. So it's still the same.
She does have a lot of viewers, though, and if you do the math, if she can convert, some of the viewers into it, it's a stretch, but it's not like a total pump and dump.
Right, exactly. It's much different than something like AVXLD or something like that. It's much different.
So this brings up a good point. Everyone's hating on AVXL and it's back to AVXL now because, they don't have the best fundamentals. They've been pumped up by various traders and newsletters and, really propaganda looking, pages on the internet. Their science really isn't that good. And yet I'm looking at the chart and, it's a perfect clean breakout over the previous highs at 10. And now it's up to 13 and the shorts are getting crushed.
That's true. But anything that has that much shadiness around it, it's been mass manipulation and allegedly it's sort of changed. But we'll see how far that goes.
Listen, I have been around short selling shadiness for a decade, more than a decade now, 15 years. And yes, shadiness always does come down eventually. But, it's only up $3 a share off the breakout, and which, I'm not chasing it on the buy side. But, this could go to 15, it could go to 20 before it's all over. And a lot of people who are shorting it, just past the breakout being like, it's fake. It's a fake. Don't short breakouts, guys. I don't care how shady a company is. If the stock is hitting new highs, if it was like a double top at 10, okay, you might have a point because then at least you have some chart price action to back you up. But this is a clear breakout if you look at AVXL in the chart. I hope for short sakes that it stops sooner than later. They tried to push it down today, midday off the highs of 12.5, and it went down to nearly 11.5. And then in the last hour, it surges another $1.50, and now it's in the 13s.
Oh yeah, no, that to me is like a classic. It's like Lake but slower. That's the way I like to look at it. I mean, people are shorting Lake at 13. That thing went to what, 23, 27?
That was my top student, Tim Grattani's biggest loss, because you start getting a thesis in your head and you're like, I have to be right, and oftentimes you are right. But the famous quote by Keynes is that the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent, which is huge for any short seller to remember.
Yeah.
The market is not always going to be like, oh, this is a pump it up. It will go to zero immediately. Sometimes it takes days, weeks, sometimes months. And shorting is very dangerous. You're paying fees every single day, whether it's interest or different brokers have different fees. I would not be shorting a breakout, right close to the breakout. I'd wait and see if and when it gets overextended. I might short AVXL later this week, but not right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that too, just because like I look at momentum RSI oscillator and everything is so overextended. You look at a weekly, a monthly chart, that thing can go on for weeks and crush people. So,
all right, let us get to the second and final question for this initial answer stock video. How do you grow a small account and make millions within a few years? Matt, tell us, how did you do it?
Okay, so literally it's just focusing on hitting singles, never hitting. If you look at my track record, I think like I've only made $1,000 per whatever trade. And that's all I focus on is just consistent returns over time, not swinging for the fences. That's literally the best advice I can give. Sometimes you'll get lucky and you may swing it out of the park. You'll make $100,000, $70,000. That's never happened to me personally. But the most I've ever made is usually about 20 to 30. And, that's a nice, consistent, within reason gain to me. But you're making a couple $1,000s a day, a week, or, even a month sometimes. That's all that really matters.
So I would say pretty much the exact same thing where, first of all, you're not going to make a lot of money right at first. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to get into trading. I'm going to grow my account starting on day one. You have to grow your knowledge base on day one. You really won't grow your account exponentially, let alone even like double it or triple it, until you get comfortable with patterns, with volatility, choosing the right position size, cutting losses quickly, and really getting the hang of it. And that takes, weeks or sometimes months. Tim Grattani, my top student, has turned 1,500 now into 2.7 million in 4 years. For the first 6 months of his trading career, he lost rather consistently, but he didn't give up. And as he was losing small, and he was learning. So sometimes, like when you lose $20 on a trade or $50 on a trade, it sucks. You're like, God, I wasted this time. Our brains are like programmed to think, wait, you give up some time and then you get paid for that time. Like that's how, working works. But you're not working a 9-to-5 job here. Trading is very counterintuitive. You might have a loss for your time, but if you learn from those losses and keep those losses small, sometimes I lose $50 or even $500 on a trade, and that's a good trade. And people are like, how can a loss be a good trade? Because it teaches you. You can't be a millionaire, and even if you do become a millionaire too quickly, you'll probably lose it if your education, if your mindset isn't there. And, the way that Matt is thinking in terms of singles, and sometimes, if he's dead on right about a play, a single turns into a double or a triple even. What'd you say your biggest day was? 20,000?
Yeah, the biggest day I've ever had is like $28,000.
So you're like an American Ichiro. You really do hit all singles.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
That's cool. For me and my strategy, because I'm trading, the most volatile stocks, I might go for a single, but I might scale up on the position size when I think that, the indicators are really all there. And I know Tim Grittani does this, and my first Millionaire student, Michael Good, also does this, where it's the same play, but you scale up on position sizes. So when people ask me, how do you make millions very quickly? I say start very, very small. Either paper trade with 100 shares, 500 shares. It's not about the money in the beginning. It's about getting comfortable with the strategy, trying to grow your account at all. And then once you get on the right path, like if you take, 2,000 and turn it into like 10,000, then you scale up the positions. Then you can say, okay, here's how I grew my account 5 times. Let me take double size positions and see how you do with bigger positions, and then scale up again and scale up again and scale down if you're on a cold streak. Tim Grittani, my top student, again, still goes through cold streaks, and sometimes he has to take a break from trading or, trades with half size. Me too. Every now and then, for the past few months in September and October, I was very nervous about a market crash. So I was trading much smaller positions. I was still trading, but when you take on, less risk and bet less money, your confidence can go up, and I think you get really, a lot better at trading. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, that's where I am right now, is just being comfortable scaling up larger, So like a couple of weeks ago, I took like a $16,000 loss, which for me is a lot, but for the size of my account, it's really, in that perspective, is not that big of a huge hit. But, it's kind of getting past the small account mentality, I would say, for me, to kind of work my way into that. I'm trading futures contracts, so it's like, it's a little bit different, but, working into that kind of ramp up, I guess, is difficult for me right now.
Well, I think no matter what your account size is, whether you have 1,000 or 100,000 or 1,000,000, you need to try and be comfortable with the position sizes that you take. We're all different. Some of us like to bet only 1% of our assets. Some of us like 10%. At the peak, I would say, 30 or 40% of assets. I never want anybody going all in or using leverage because that can lead to disaster. But no matter what your size is, you have to be comfortable. You have to do what works for you. So when people say, Tim, just tell me, what percent I should use of my assets. And I'm like, well, it depends on your confidence. It depends on the play. It depends on your schedule. A lot of the times life gets in the way. Like if I have to go pick up my dog, she's getting groomed or something, which happened the other day, and I can't leave her at the groomer's closing. I have to not trade as much. And I can't help that. She needs to, be groomed. Otherwise she smells like a homeless man sometimes. So, I had to factor that into my trading. I don't like my puppy. I have a little Pomeranian smelling like a homeless man that I run by every day, so she needs to get groomed, and you need to think about that when you make trades. When you have money, in the market, for me, that's like going to Vegas and putting like $1,000 on a blackjack and being like, oh, let me just go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Watch my money. I would never leave my money, I don't gamble, first of all, in Vegas, but I would never leave my money like at a table or trusting with anybody else. Like if I have to go to the bathroom, I've missed trades before because I've, gone to the bathroom. I had a $30,000 dump once, and that wasn't fun, but it was necessary. I could not hold it in any longer. And sometimes that stuff happens. Sometimes shit happens, literally.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. But
Tell us your one story of a trade that you missed because life got in the way.
Oh God. There's so many.
What's the most memorable? I remember missing IIJI and like wishing I had a bedpan, and that really sucked.
It was something along the same lines, but for me,
it was a number one, not a number two.
Yeah, like that's always a problem, like I see something and it's like, oh man, I have to go to the restroom, and then it's like I don't even want to enter this trade, and then all of a sudden, boom, takes off without you. I
watched this stock for 2 days waiting for it to crack, and it just wouldn't, and I'm like, it was the middle of the day, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom, I really have to go. And I come back and it cracks and all the stop losses are taking it down, and I'm like and I almost got a bedpan like Lieutenant Dan and Forrest Gump style.
Yeah, but for me, I mean, I used to get upset about that stuff, but honestly, over time, like it's just like the market will always be there, and there will always be other opportunities. But when you stock something for so long, like a hunter, and then you're like, oh, I just gotta go. I'll be right back. Don't you move. And then boom, takes right off.
That is trading sometimes, and I'm glad that you do recognize that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Today I missed my buy on VSCP when it was breaking out, and it was a beautiful morning spike, and I missed it. And a lot of people missed it in my chat room. Some people hit it, but you live to fight another day. If you miss a trade, you learn from it. You say, okay, you try and remember this pattern, you remember this setup, and you say, okay, it worked this time. And then you take that memory and you apply it to your next trade or the next time you see that pattern. And that's how you evolve. And that's how, I think the question was, how do you turn a small account into millions? But how do you, make millions and then keep your millions and then keep on making millions? And you take it one trade at a time. We all live a long life, especially thanks to modern medicine. So the sooner you learn this stuff, the even if you make, a trade that you lose money on or you miss a trade, it's still an educational experience. I think a lot of people need to think about the education side of things more. They just see the money all at first, but they don't see how much work do you put in. How much work do you put into your watch list every night, Matt? That's a better question.
So last night I put in probably about 9 hours.
That's on the high side, because Matt is, crazy.
I'm a macro trader and a stock trader, so you have to know both things that are going on.
I don't want people scared away being like spending 9 hours on their watch list. Like, Tim, I was going to sleep, but I had to do my watch list. So, I just took my normal sleep patterns and I turned it into a research time, and it was great. And now I feel like crap.
It's a labor of love, though. So
you trade a lot of markets, but for me, I think most people on their watch list, they spend maybe 5 minutes. And my whole point was that that's too low. For me, I spend anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, and it's different for everybody, anywhere from 5 minutes to 9 hours on the high side. But the key is that, we all have to prepare. I never want anybody coming into the market at the market open and being like, okay, what's hot? I don't know. I haven't been watching anything. That is a recipe for disaster. Do you agree?
I agree completely. I think there's a huge lack of people who do not want to put in the time. I mean, even when I started, I lost like 30% of my account in 2 months. For me, I had to look in the mirror and say, am I really doing everything I need to be doing to be successful? And the truth was, no, I wasn't putting any time into it. I was relying on other people, and that was the worst experience for me. And that's what taught me, look, if you want to be successful, you're going to have to put in the time. Sleep is nice, but we can sleep when we're dead. That's fine. And because I really love markets. I just wasn't doing the work at all.
Yeah.
And it cost me a lot.
Well, that's a good lesson. And I'm glad you learned it at such a young age. I've had my ups and downs, but I think all of my downs were due to lack of preparation, lack of due diligence. It's very tough to lose a lot of money if you put in a lot of time into researching and you stayed adaptive. Some people make the mistake, I've put in so much time into this, I cannot close my position because now I'm married to it. And that's another mistake. So I think that there's a happy medium between, doing a lot of research and preparing, but still staying agile. So if you prepared and you studied and you feel confident, but the stock doesn't do what you want, you can still cut it. Too many people they feel like they put in so much time. It goes back to that whole thing that we were talking about earlier, where you want to get paid for your time. And sometimes you're going to make a lot of money with very little research. If there's a perfect play, like a perfect earnings winner or a perfect pump and dump for me. And sometimes, you're going to put in a lot of time and there's going to be no reward. That is trading. It's not linear. So stop trying to make this into your 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, it's impossible to force the market to do what you want it to do in the time that you want it to do it. And markets do not understand time at all. They do whatever they want to do.
I agree. And on that note, thank you guys for tuning in to the first ever Answer Stock. If you have questions that you want answered on the next Answer Stock, with more guest stars and more multi-millionaires who aren't sleeping right now,
there will be no names.
We will have more of these episodes. Send an email to admin@timothysykes.com with your questions. in the title, write the word answer stock, and we'll answer them live for you on our next episode. Thanks again.
Peace.
My name is Tim Sykes, and I teach people to trade stocks. I am a self-made multimillionaire. So this is the ideal trade that I'm going to talk about. I want you guys to understand every single aspect of this trade.